Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I have 5:30, so we'll call the Franklin County work session, public hearing to order, and we will open up for the next 30 minutes and talk a little bit about our budget. It's the only thing that we have. The item for discussion today is our fiscal year 2021 budget. So I believe we do have one guest that wants to speak a little bit about the library.
I do.
Ms. Shoemaker, come on up. Tell us what's on your mind.
I'm sorry, and I emailed y'all last week. We found out last week that the Board of Education is no longer allowed to give funds to the library because they cannot guarantee that the funds are going to be spent on children. So we are trying to see if we can get the funds that the Board of Education gives. We wanted you to absorb it, and I know that's a chunk, it's $21,000. But if maybe y'all could do part of it. I've also talked to the mayor of Royston, and I'm going to speak to their council in 2 weeks, and next week I'm going to go to the Livonia Council. We had already asked them for a little bit of an increase, but now we're having to ask for more because of the funding that we are losing. We work on a shoestring budget. We have $124,000 we use. Excuse me, $129,000, and we operate 2 libraries for that, which is kind of unheard of. We only have one manager, and she manages both branches. Because when one of ours retired, we decided to make it to where, to bring our funds down of how much we spent. That's how we had to do it. I know y'all already give $58,185, and we had asked y'all for an increase because we have to have cleaning supplies because of COVID. Our supplies have gone up, so I had already talked to Beth about going up because of that. So that's kind of a give. There's nothing we can do about that one. But as far as what the Board of Education is giving, like I say, it was sprung on us last week that where I would have come earlier maybe than last week to y'all about the funds. If we do not get the funds, unfortunately, we're going to have to close down some hours and lay off people. There's nothing we can do if we don't get the funds. We are looking into, if we don't, we'll go to every other day. There will be a library open in the county, but not both. And so we will have to lay off staff. Is the only way that we've looked at how we can do it without that money, because we are on such a shoestring budget. As far as what I mean, that's a lot, you know. Like I said, $129,000 sounds like a lot, but it's not for 2, when you're talking about 2 buildings with staff and staying open. We originally thought maybe we could just be only open 1 night a week, but we've looked at it, and the only way we could do it is if we just close down certain days and lay off staff. And I hate to put y'all in that predicament. And at this short notice is part of it too, but there's nothing we can do. It's just one of those things that as far as our budget is. But we do feel like we are very, we do give a lot to the community. I believe that my children have their avid love of reading because of the libraries. I took them to the libraries when they were little. So I believe in the libraries. I've been on the library board for 20 years. So I believe in them. So that's the reason I'm here, asking for you guys to kind of help us out if you can. And I've sent you some more emails today. I have some other stuff if you want it. It's a breakdown of what each city gives us. But if you look at the way Livonia, it shows they give us $16,000 in the budget, and Royston gives us $18,000. But that is just how much they give us for our budget. They own the buildings, so they have to pay the insurance on the building. We have to pay for the insurance for the contents of the building, and they pay our, they do all our maintenance. They do our, do our cleaning. They pay our electric bills, so they do more than what it says is on how much they do give. Royston has sent me a thing saying they pay $43,000 is what they figure out a year, and that included the 16 they were already giving. The 18 they already gave us. You got any questions?
Have any of those city leaders mentioned Or
I
have they-
talked to them today to see if maybe y'all could divide it 3 ways between the 2 major cities who've got the libraries. And they didn't say no, but they didn't, you know, I'm gonna go back and talk to them. I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna go beg. I'm not proud. I think this is a worthy cause, or I wouldn't be, you know, thinking, asking for it. Cause and if all years for this to happen, this is a hard year for everybody. I know everybody's got, you know, cuts across the board through the state, and that's about the hard part.
How has COVID affected the hours of the library and people using?
Well, right now, they can check out books, and we take them to this curbside. In a week and a half, no, they're not, next week, we are starting to open up for computer use only. Because we did, originally state to the county that we would have a, computer set aside just to do census. That's all that people can use it for. But the other computers, we have had them, we are part of the regional library system with Athens. They have come and moved all our, computers spaciously apart so we can, have the computers for the other uses, but there still will be one at each library that is just for the census. And that's all that the public is allowed to do. We will still do the curbside pickup. They're not allowed to go to the book shed. Because it has not been determined how that will affect the books, people going into that part, so.
How much of the 21,000 do you want us to contribute?
Well, of course, you know, I would love all of it, but realistically, whatever you can get. That's the reason I was talking to the 2 other cities, if maybe we can split it 3 ways. I've asked them for that. You know, you pretty much each of y'all take $7,000. And we're not the only ones that have done that. Other counties had done it. They had been absorbed into the other identities. I just didn't know why. The Board of Education and the other schools, I just saw the other identities decided to take it on. But can we find out the reason they did is because it is the way the law reads. They cannot guarantee that the funds are being used for students, and they're getting federal funds for students. Is the reason. So, whatever you can do, we would much appreciate it. Like I said, I would love the whole park, but I understand that too. And that's the reason I've already talked to the cities about what they can do. The major cities. We asked the other cities to come up with a little bit more, but they don't have as much revenue as some of the 2 other big cities. And those are the ones with the libraries in. So, and that's, they put it as their attraction too. I mean, you know, Bunyan's got a Carnegie, it's a big thing. You know, and then Royston's got this huge library, so that's a big thing too. So they're attracting people to their community because of the library, so maybe they can pick up the slack a little too. So, yeah.
Well, looking at our budget, we've contributed an additional $6,000, I believe.
Yes.
And I like the idea of going ahead and dividing it 3 ways, but I don't think it'd be wise for us to try to adjust the budget today, but commit to 7,000, say a third of it, and come back and make an amendment to our budget when we see that we can go ahead and fund 7,000 more.
And Livonia's kind of different because they're on a calendar year versus a fiscal year, so they're gonna have to commit early to everything, so, and I'm sure, you know, once they commit early, they would, you know, that would be fine, because I know they hadn't even really, I don't know how much they've looked into their budget already, but they may have already looked because everything's been cut, figuring out what they're gonna do as well, so, they had more time to figure out their budget than you guys did, period.
Right.
Do we have we received the sales tax revenue for June? I mean, for April and June?
Yeah, I pulled it down last night through the intraday. I do not have the commodity report, and I'd like to see that, so I can see, our sales tax did something I was not expecting. It actually came in $30,000 higher than our last 12 months average. So it's hard to know if that's a blip, or if there's one commodity that's driving that. And so when the Department of Revenue posts that commodity report, I'll be able to pull down and see.
Okay.
I will leave this where Beth and y'all can just get what you guys about and some of this stuff I already emailed you about those cute little flyers at the kids, that we have in the garden at the Royston Library. We did get a grant to put the, garden in and the little building and all the tools for the kids. Royston gave us the fence and put in water for us, so, that's something exciting that we do have. It also, and what I did send you today too, also shows the totals of how many people are using the computer. Because we do live in such a rural area, half families don't have computers or an internet. If they did have, that's a big problem we're having now too. So that's another big thing that the library does give to the community is access to computers that they wouldn't have otherwise because of our rules. The school system found out how many children didn't have computers when they had to go check them out to the kids to do their schoolwork to the end of the school year. So it was surprising. They were surprised how many people needed, computers and didn't have them. So that is something that we are offering the community that a lot of people in our area don't have.
I'd be in favor of helping the library if we can, because they do have an important role, and we have 2 good libraries in our county.
We do, we really do. I'm very proud of them. They're both wonderful libraries. And if you haven't been there a long time, you need to go visit them. They're very pretty. And we are lucky to have 2. Very lucky to be such a small county to have 2 libraries. We're the only ones around. Hart, Elbert, Madison, they only have 1. We have 2. So it's we're pretty good. We're pretty big.
We certainly appreciate you keeping us posted with the emails you sent out. I thought it quite interesting how the kids are doing the garden and so forth. And I think I'm personally willing to help you as much as possible.
Well, thanks. And whatever y'all can do, we are very, very grateful.
Thank you.
Okay, we got anybody else want to talk about the budget during the public hearing today? We got about 16 more minutes of the public hearing.
I got a question, Mr. Chairman. Do we have any idea what the tax digest is looking like?
I do not have a consolidation sheet, but this break, I was fixing to go ask Bobby so we could look at our July schedule, because
I don't have them either. I'm hearing maybe on Thursday. I'll do it on Thursday. Okay.
I believe that bill passed and we asked Mr. Powell to take through on the senior citizens what Mr. Martin presented. I was talking to them last Friday. They was pushing to get those through, but I hadn't followed through. I'm assuming they did. You heard Mr. Martin?
Yes, sir, it was great.
I thought they would.
So that'll be on the fall ballot.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
can we run new impacts on what that would have been on this year's, I know it's not affecting this year's tax digest, but when we rerun those numbers to know what the impact will be based on the most updated tax digest when we get it on Thursday? That way we can prepare for next year's reduced revenue.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to close out our public hearing. Appreciate you being here and a few comments that we've heard. So we will be at 6 o'clock. We'll start our June the 30th meeting in Justice Center. This is a work session that we hold the last Tuesday of every month. And looks like tonight we have a lot of work to cut out for us. So I'm going to call this meeting to order so we can get started. And like always, we have an invocation and pledge of allegiance. I'm going to call on Dr. Michael Knight to lead us in.
Please stand. Bow our heads. Father, we thank you for the health of our county and for the economic security we have right now, even in these difficult times. Help us to be good stewards and to help us to take good care of the people who have been entrusted, that we've been entrusted with their care. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hope you picked up a schedule back there, or agenda as you come in on the desk and you follow along. And we'll start with the items of discussion. First thing we have is the FY 21 budget resolution. And I know, Ms. Thomas, you've run a lot of hours on this budget. Would you please summarize things on the resolution, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, in front of you guys tonight is a budget resolution that will approve or adopt the budget for fiscal year 21. It will include the budget resolution as typed as well as the budget attachment. This budget was advertised in the legal organ, and we have now held our 2 public hearings. There's been some good dialogue and discussion about things in this time of uncertainty. The budget as presented to you is the same as the draft as presented. And some of the items that you may want to change as a result of this last public hearing, we can look at budget modifications, would be what I recommend once we get the finalized tax digest and look at least 2 more months of sales data. Tonight, I ask that the board go ahead and take action on the fiscal year 21 budget resolution.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. You've heard Ms. Thomas' recommendation that we go ahead and take action on the budget FY 21, so we'll have it behind us and adopted. Any questions y'all like to ask Ms. Thomas?
Once we've adopted this current budget, we can make modifications if we so choose, specifically for the library allotment.
Yes, sir.
That's a good question. We can always make modifications like the library situation if we go ahead and adopt this budget. And we might run up on some other things that we'd like to undertake also. But tonight, as we've been studying this budget, do I have a motion we pass this budget?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the fiscal year 2021 budget, but that we include a 3% employee raise across the board. This raise would be for all employees that have been in service for 12 months. And this would allow any employee with less than 12 months, when they reach 12 months, to be eligible for the raise during the year. It would exclude the county manager until January, and that's only because she received a raise back in January when we extended her contract. So I'll make that motion tonight.
So we have a motion to add to our budget a 3% pay raise. Do I have a second?
I second it.
So we have a second from Mr. Franklin. Any discussion?
Yes, I have a question. And I don't want this to be perceived that I'm not in favor of necessarily giving a pay raise. Have we been able to do any research to see how that would affect the overall budget, adding that 3%?
Yeah, so I ran the calculations based on the higher of the actual run rate, using March annualized out for the year, or the higher of the budget. As I said in my emails back and forth on this discussion, and I wish we would have had dialogue during the public hearing section, our sales tax data did come in, but it's hard to know if that's a blip. You know, it's hard to know what that is till you see the commodity report. And I know it was suggested that we use our reserves to fund the difference. And to me, that's bad fiscal policy. And we should take lessons from the Board of Commissioners in years past and the Board of Education in years past. When you balance your budget with reserves on operating expenditures, it's a bad fiscal policy. So the average for a 3% increase was going to be an additional expenditure of about $300,000. That's using the max of the actual or the max of the budget. So that would be another $300,000. Combined with y'all's desire to roll back taxes, those are going in opposite directions. What my suggestion has always been, and I'll hold steady to it, is I've always put the county employees first. We've made budget adjustments, we've made salary adjustments. I've always put them first in terms of when I give you my goals for the year. So I do not want it to be pinned that I'm not in favor of that, but I am in favor in waiting until the end of this pandemic and seeing what our sales tax does and committing to the first dollar going to them on a salary adjustment. but to make the, operational decision now, I think is bad fiscal policy.
I know the reserves are important, and I want to see us build our reserves long term. But we are in a unique situation this year, and we do have a problem in that Franklin County, the employees are underpaid compared to surrounding areas, and we do lose employees because we hire them, we train them, and then they turn around and get hired by other counties because they're paying more. And then when they leave, if they have any paid leave time, that's a double whammy. I think it's important. There was a long time, apparently, or several years after the Great Recession, where we didn't give raises. And now we've done that for several years. I think we need to send a clear signal to our employees that they're a priority. I think it will help with employee morale, motivation, retention. And I think that's important now more than ever because they're facing, just like us, they're facing difficult times. And we're blessed. I think we can do this. And hopefully our economic data will continue to improve and cover that. If not, I think that's a valid use of our reserves to provide this. And then we'll do what we do every year is reassess.
Well, I would suggest then, if you really want to put our employees first, 3% is not enough. It's not enough for the jail workers, it's not enough for my EMS, we're Banks County, it just gave a $3 increase. If you want
It's
to
a
put
start,
them first,
though.
then are you going to put them above the millage rate?
I think it's a priority I think 3% is a start. And did we do 3% last year and the year before? Where were we
Yeah,
roughly
except
at?
First year, we were in a situation and then we found some funding on the health fund, so
Okay.
we did a retro salary adjustment, which is what I would recommend here, a retro salary adjustment. After you know that you've banked that money and that money is going to come in, we know what the tax digest looks like. So we have done it every year since I've been here. We did go about 9 years without one, and we fought hard to put the employees first, but we're just, like you said, we're in a period of uncertainty. So how do you make a decision on something? So
It is tough, but like I said, I think this is something we can handle. I mean, it's important. We can't function without our employees, and they are underpaid. I'd love to give them a 5% raise, but at least we could do 3%.
Well, and I suggest also employee appreciation goes beyond money.
It does.
So we have employee appreciation.
And we need to work on
lunches.
that.
It's not lunch. I'd invite you to come out. I invite you to do mirroring with our employees, be present, see them. It's more than just money when it comes to appreciation. And I know I don't show my employees enough that I appreciate them, but sometimes there are a lot of non-monetary things that go a long way.
How would it look if we wound up like some governments, city governments, county governments, and other things where they laid off an employee? In our county, we are really blessed to have a reserve. We're really blessed to work hard over the years to build a little reserve. Our employees have always been foremost in our sight to make sure we provide for them. But not knowing the situation, if we do this, it would be awful disappointing to our staff to say, okay, we got to cut some here and there, here. The governor just asked all of the, across the board, 10% decrease. We're not decreasing any. I think we're stepping out on a limb that could be chopped off, and we might hurt our employees more than we'd help them. We can do the same thing that you said, Dr. Michelson, but waiting a few months, say around November, if the economical situation looks good and our money is building, we can do the same thing that you asked them to do tonight, because if we make it retro, we're talking about modifying our budget, we can make it retro back to July 1st, knowing that we're safe at that time. But the uncertainty right now, I'm really looking across our workforce that we have in this county is tremendous. We've been understaffed and overworked a long time. I think all of us agree with that, and underpaid. And all of us wants to do that. I'm 100% what Dr. Michelson is proposing, but on a little different angle than he is proposing. I think it would be much better to do what he's saying, but wait till we see the clear picture. If we go and do it now, it's going to make our employees suffer. It's going to make the county suffer, provided we don't have the funds. So what do we do if we don't have the funds? We'll come back and ask our taxpayers, for a millage increase to make sure we cover just what he's suggesting we do tonight. So I'm 100% of giving 3, 5 of what we can provide, but
I think
I've been trailing this thing down for a long time, knowing the pandemic has really put us in a bind and so forth. And I looked at all the places that has laid off employees, and our employees have stayed put, and we provided for them.
Well, I think giving them more is excellent. I think we should do the 3% now, and in November, if things are looking up, we'll add 2 more %. I'd be fully in favor of that if the budget can handle it. But I think we can handle
What's gonna
this.
happen if we give 3% now, and the pandemic
Well,
says we have to
You're
raise
not
the
you're not
taxes?
paying it for the entire year right off. That's metered out over the whole year. So I think that our budget can handle it. I believe it's something employees are a priority, and I believe we ought to do it now. We shouldn't leave them hanging. They've been
You increase the
many
millage
years.
rate to account for it.
I don't think we necessarily need to do
But
that.
I'm saying if it turns into that.
If it turned into that, but I don't believe it will.
So you're gonna put, and it's just good for me to know when I create the budget, instead of waiting until after the election to tell me your goals.
What's good
I need
is
to know
yeah.
if the employees go first, then that's how we build. the
What's
budget.
good is we'll have more information, for instance, on revenue by then. We're still a month or so away from that.
And
But we're
what's
making a
not
budget
good, if we
decision.
see we don't have the revenue, we have to
Yeah.
raise taxes.
I don't think we will.
That's a gamble we taking.
I don't think so.
Chairman,
But-
since
that's
you've
your
opened it
opinion.
up for conversation, you know, I've got to make my own budget with my own money, and I have to make the decisions that I make based on what I know, not what I hope I'm going to get paid, one way or another. So I don't want to say that, and I love your heart and where you're coming from with that, and I want to see what you want to see, okay? And truth be told, I've spent my own money showing my appreciation for our first responders and people in our county. So I don't want that to come across as I'm not in favor of that. Not too long ago, people are quick to forget things. Not too long ago, we were in drastic a situation in our county and our nation. And we don't know what is coming in the next few months. We don't.
We don't.
So in my mind, why will we not wait until we know what the money is, what that situation looks like, so that we can give, and we can give freely and from the heart and not be worried about what's coming down the pike?
I think with our reserves we can handle that. Even if things don't turn out exactly the way we want.
I mean, the reserves though are there for kind of
You,
emergency situations.
I think COVID-19 qualifies as an emergency situation.
Yeah, but these people are currently employed.
They are.
There are a lot of industries out there that
They are.
they let a lot of people go.
That's true, and I'm thankful we don't have to do that.
Tell us what's the difference in voting tonight for 3% in relation to voting later to modify our budget when we are certain everything is good. What is the difference, other than it looks good, look good to the employees?
It's
Yeah.
good for the employees, and we can do this now. I mean, I guess we'll just have to vote and let the board decide. If they don't want to do that, then we'll, come at it a different angle.
I guess the thing that I'm sitting here when I'm thinking about our employees is, yes, the employees that work for the county still have a job. How many of their spouses or whoever else have lost their jobs because of this? And thinking about it, would us being able to give them a pay raise, would that help them now? And that's sort of where my mind is at. I'm not necessarily just looking at the employee that we have hired. I want to look at that employee's families too. I mean, I think we need to take that into account. We don't know how negatively this is impacting them. And if we as a county are capable of doing this, then I think now is better than later, because we may have employees that are needing that now. And I just thinking about it, that's who I'm wanting to take into consideration. Not just the employee, but their family and what they're going through.
That being said though, Eddie, and I agree with you, we're still in a situation where we don't know what that tax digest, what that's looking like. So we might be strapping our taxpayers with a millage increase, significant one, not even just including that, but the potential for what may happen in the next few months with this COVID thing, and how that may affect our tax digest. That's my only, I don't have a problem with what you're saying either.
Well, the situation is very clear to me. It is popular. Go ahead and say, look what I did. I vote tonight, give you a 3% pay raise. I hope I'm wrong. I hope we don't come back and say, shouldn't have done that. Got to lay somebody off, or we got to raise taxes. Our reserve is about, Ms. Thomas, about half what it should be for a county.
Yeah, so when we started back in 15, we had no reserves.
That's right.
We worked hard to get them up. We've slashed some budgets that have never been reinstated.
Right.
We've operated, well, I gave y'all a list. I gave y'all a list of unmet needs and areas that certain departments have skimped and saved and did what was asked so that we could build this reserve. And we've been very blessed. This county has been very blessed over the past few years in the production of revenue, both sales tax and property tax. I don't want to go backwards. I never want to be like we were in 15. I hope that you remember that. The first year, and you had no clue. We had no clue what we were walking into. In 15, you go, because of this same fiscal policy of trying to pay out of reserves, we watched $9 million go out. And you can see the clear-cut chart all the way down. I don't want to be there in 3 years. I don't want to be this Board of Education who had, done the same policy, funded positions through reserves. I want to give the employees money. I've always, if you go back to my emails and all of my priorities on budget, every year the employees come first. But my job is to give you the best budget possible, and I think there still is unknown on the tax digest and the sales. If you want to commit tonight to spend the first 3 months of sales tax that come in over the average or over the budget amount, let's do it. And as soon as we have it, cut them a check for a salary adjustment.
The truth is we shift and pull back and forth from the reserve for lots of reasons. And we have to make choices, should we do it here? Should we do it here? This is not you're going to remove $300,000 tomorrow. It will be a gradual thing over the year, and we can see how we can balance that out, where we can shave if we have to, where we can increase if we're blessed with more revenue. So it's not an immediate hit to the budget or to the reserves, but with the level of reserves we have, we can take care of this particular issue. I feel like.
It's actually worse because it's, yeah, you're right, it is gradual, but it's unstoppable. Once you do it, it compounds and moves on. Unlike saying, we need a vehicle, let's buy a vehicle out of reserves. It's concrete, it's hardcore, you know what you're pulling out, you know what you gotta replace. But to do a policy that it compounds upon itself, obviously we're on two separate ends. You'll end up making the vote. The board will decide what they decide. I'll make the budget adjustments for the resolution, but I'm standing firmly on right now on the unknown. It is bad fiscal policy.
I appreciate your advice. I disagree, but I guess we just have to vote. And decide.
I remember first thing we did was look for shaving where we could shave. We asked all the commissioners, please look at where we can shave. We shaved as much as we can shave. Then we look at our reserve, and then we look at the uncertainty of the future. And I was thinking, we all agree we need to help the employees out, and it's a good way to do it. The same way of making it retro back to now and do it in a safe manner. People elect us to be good stewards, very knowledgeable of what's going on, and very safe in the citizens' mind that we are not doing something, stepping off in a hole, so to speak. Mr. Franklin?
What bothers me is, we have talked about the employees for a long time, but we don't do nothing about it. I remember when we tried to get 5%, I was with a different board. All it could get was a 3. I said, why don't we do a 3 and a 2? And it passed. You know, when you know you've got good employees, do something about it besides talk about it. We've got good employees. The road department, them men, man, they work roads hot, cut trees, and I don't see where there's a problem with it
Okay.
whatsoever.
I hope all of y'all got the vision that is clear cut for y'all, because I don't have that vision. And since I've been aboard, we have given 3, 3, 3. We have upped, because in my sight, it is important that we give pay raises.
Yeah.
Provided we don't fall off in a hole. And I can remember when we didn't have no reserve, and now we only got about half what we need. Let's just pray to God that we don't have a really disaster here, because what we're fixing to do is a no-no.
Well, if we have a disaster, this will pale in comparison to other issues that we face. And I feel like that this is something we can do, which I've said that over and over.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to give a 3% and adjust the budget. Approximately how many thousand, Ms. Thomas?
What I will put in the budget is exactly as calculated, $292,533.85. That will not line up exactly with the way that you made the motion, but it will ensure that those funds are
Right.
there for any employees
Right.
that are. And obviously, this cannot be tomorrow, give the COLAs, there's gonna have to be
Right.
calculations done on that.
Now, was the motion to give across the board 3% to everybody?
It was approve the budget with a 3% COLA to any employee greater than 12 months tenure, anybody less than 12 months, provide when they reach 12 months, except for the county manager who, even though contractor, in contradiction to the contract, will not apply till January, and I'll be the first to give up my pay raise to go to the employees. As Commissioner Swells have said, that there's always personal money to show appreciation to the employees. And I gotta say, while I stand on the opposite side of you, there's nothing that makes me more happy than the board that says that put their employees first. And I'd like to see that in more actions other than monetary, be present, see them, thank them. And so as a manager of employees, I appreciate you putting the employees first.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. All right, all in favor of the motion, please signify with your right hand. We got 3 people. Mr. Wester, Mr. Michelson, Mr. Franklin votes for it. All opposed? We got 2 that voted no, not necessarily that we don't want to give a raise, but just from the vision of smart thinking on our part, we vote no. All right, let's move to the next item. Here we have B item, budget modification resolution. We have these from the Fly 20, and here we're having a modification, Fly 20. Ms. Thomas?
Yes, so I've been gathering up budget modifications for various purposes. So we've adopted the budget, just like y'all adopted for this first fiscal year, and then you can go back and modify the budget based on when things become more concrete. The listing that's been provided to you covers a lot of different areas. The majority of them are grants. For example, LMIG, we don't typically budget for LMIG money. We wait till that comes in. And FY20, we were actually able to complete 2 LMIG projects in 1 year, thus the large adjustments. We also received several grants that were received in prior year, but the expenditures were spent in this year, and so we need to true up the budget for that. I'm asking for budget modifications to account for the GRP monitoring. You guys approved that in a motion, but we need to formalize it into the budget. You approved the airport authority payments, asking for adjustments to legal services for all the motions that we made to employ the attorney on certain items and certain uncontrollable. employer contributions for 401A. We always budget for the defined benefit plan, but we needed to add budget in for the 2% 401A plan for the new employees. Gateway distribution, we had some increase in firefighter workers' comp and association dues. I'm also making adjustments for any of the GFA and USDA loans and grant money that came in. So you see the expenditures, we need to account for the revenue. I'm asking for adjustments to the sheriff's budget to give him credit for vehicle repairs for money that we received from the insurance companies. Elections obviously had a lot of unexpected and unbudgeted expense as a result of COVID and the new voting equipment. I also have grants that we have put in for elections that I need to account for in the city elections. So all of that listed, and the budget attachment, I'm asking tonight that the board take motion to modify the FY20 budget for these list of items, which includes the items just mentioned and represented in the budget amendment resolution attachment.
Okay, you have before you all the things that you just read out to go ahead and modify and sign a resolution. Do you have a motion? We move on that.
I move that we approve the fiscal year 20 budget modification resolution.
Thank you. Dr. Maxwell makes a motion. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Mr. Swells makes a second. Any discussion, ma'am? Hearing none, all in favor? Got a 5-0 vote. Passes. Now we move to item C here, is contracts and agreements here, and we'll let Ms. Thomas talk about, we got several here under that understanding with the University of Georgia Extension, and started with that with Ms. Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, there are several things that are built into the budget, but they are contracts that need to be approved and executed by the Board of Commissioners. Typically, the MOU between the University System of Georgia, the Extension Office, and the county is typically signed by the county manager. They have changed their language and put this into a more formalized MOU. I have presented it to the Board of Commissioners, and I would ask that you guys consider that on Monday's regular board meeting. So this will cover our memorandum of understanding and our work relationship with the Extension Office.
Will you resend that to us later? It came through as like a blank document. I had an idea what it was, but when it came through in the email, it was just like you couldn't open it.
Don't you have a copy of it
I just had it on.
in your package?
I should be able to send it directly here.
Okay.
Before we leave
Thank you.
tonight. Does anybody have any questions about those? That one? Would you like me to continue on?
All right, we'll need to be ready to vote on that Monday. Thank you.
The next item under contracts is the FY21 District Attorney State Paid County Reimbursed Personnel, or MOU contract. If you look on the back page of that, it gives a listing of everybody in the Northern Judicial Circuit. We only pay for one of those members. I have asked the DA's office to double check this total obligation. The total obligation that is shown on this MOU is for the whole district, and I think our whole circuit, I said that wrong, the Northern Circuit. I think last year I had them also change this to reflect only Franklin County's portion. So on Monday night, I'd ask that you guys approve this contract with the district attorney's office, but I will have that modified to reflect only Franklin County's portion. Does anybody have any questions about that agreement? Okay.
Nope. Go ahead to the third item.
The third item is the landfill compliance task order. It's hard to believe we're already on task order 31. The Jacobs firm in some capacity has been doing our landfill compliance and monitoring for quite a long time. And so on Monday night, I would ask that you guys take motion on this and approve this task order. It is the same amount as last year. It's $22,300. It does allow for a $10,000 owner-controlled contingency. So far, we've never had to use that, or at least in the past several years, we have not had to use that. They do a good job, and they have the history of the landfill. So I would recommend that the board approve that on Monday.
Question on the Jacobs landfill there. How much increase did you say?
It should be the same as last year.
Same as
In
last
the
year.
contract, it's the same as that last year. It does allow for a $10,000 additional. if we were to have some kind of outlier or something that required additional services,
Okay.
this would authorize up to.
What was that amount? 22,
22,300.
Okay.
Any other questions for Ms. Thomas on that item? All right, be ready to vote on that item Monday, please. All right, let's move down to the disposition of property here, Ms. Thomas.
Thank you. The first one I want to talk about is surplus equipment. The county has the ability to dispose of surplus equipment once approved. I've taken several lists to the Board of Commissioners several times to dispose of property. As a result of COVID and shutting down the office, we were able to reconfigure our front office, clean up quite a few things. And where we did the server change out, we had been holding on to our old computers. So I have a whole list of old computers that have less than a $500 value. And on Monday night, I would ask that the board approve for the county manager to dispose of that property through the proper means. We would have to get with a specific company that would wipe those hard drives clean and give us the certificate. But before I take any action, I would like the board to approve that. We do have quite a pile up in the basement that's locked up, so if you guys want to come and look at that surplus equipment, you're more than welcome to join us in our office, and we'll walk you down to the basement to see it. Does anybody have any question about those? And I don't have a list of numbers because there are lots of keyboards and mouse. I don't know how you say the plural of mouse.
What do you do, find somebody that buys?
It's not mice. We have lots of, I'm sorry, Commissioner Franklin, what?
You find somebody that buys salvage computers or something?
Well,
I mean,
you
I
have
don't
to
know.
use a particular person, but they have to be able to give you a certificate that they've wiped the hard drive clean.
Oh, okay.
Can they be donated to the libraries?
I don't think you'd want to donate these.
So they're pretty old.
Some of them are pretty
Okay.
old. Some of them are okay. but-
We use them till they go. Well, we got a B item on there also, Ms. Thomas.
Yes, we do have a B item. In front of you is a resolution on the demolition of what we refer to as the LeCroy building, because that's what I refer to it as. It's not the official name. The official identification is tax map C002083 building. We purchased that back in July of last year. It's a 2-story brick building. You can't miss it on the courthouse square. It butts up right against it. The building was in ill repair from years of sitting vacant and lack of structural maintenance. On Tuesday of last week, sometime between the AM and the PM, sometime in the lunch hour, the eastern-facing wall experienced significant damage. There was no storm at the time, but if you ride by, that wall has crumbled and fallen down on it. After assessing the building, looking at the bricks that are there in the grout, and the undefined plan that we have for it, I think it's in the best safety and health of those in the proximate area that building be demolished. While it is not explicitly written how we demolish a building, a resolution is the best way to concrete or solidify what the board's intention to give this. I've received 2 quotes on the demolition of the building. I'd like to move on it as soon as possible. So while it's customary for us to vote at work session, due to the risk involved, I would ask that the Board of Commissioners approve this resolution tonight, authorizing demolition of the building for the safety of the public in the area of the LeCroy building.
All right, we've got a recommendation and a resolution here, and we need to go ahead and act on it tonight. The building, I think everybody's familiar, and hopefully maybe you caught your eye the deterioration of the east wall that's fell. I'll entertain a motion that we move forward with this resolution.
Move that we approve the resolution to demolish the LeCroy building.
Dr. Maxwell makes a motion that we approve this resolution to go ahead and demolish the building. Have a second.
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Wester makes a second. Any discussion, gentlemen?
I did get by there and see it after we had been notified, and I do think it is definitely a safety issue with the way the bricks have come loose.
Right.
And I think you run the risk of having not just people walking by, but vehicles coming by, that it could be a serious issue with.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? We got a 5-0 vote to go ahead. All right, we got, next item is the speed zone ordinance, which we deal with from time to time and get the sheriff's department involved on the speed zone ordinance. Ms. Thomas?
Yes, the GDOT provided us, earlier this week, 2 copies of the updated ordinance, that they have, my backup, the Georgia Department of Transportation completed an update for the Franklin County speed zone ordinance. These are presented for your review. GDOT says it's the responsibility of the county to sign off on all off-system roadways. We will provide a copy to the sheriff, as well as we've given it to Public Works so that they can ensure that the roads have been posted. This is just for your consideration, and I ask that you take motion to accept this ordinance on Monday night.
So look over this ordinance, gentlemen. If you have any questions for Ms. Thomas?
I just wanted to ask, we raised about part of Pleasant Hill Road, Pleasant Hill Circle. I know it's too late to be included on this list, but did anybody have a chance to go look at it?
No, I've not got the
Okay.
engineering study back yet on it, and it was not included on this list.
I didn't think it would, because that kind of was at the same time.
Yeah, and it just happened to overlap.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll be ready to vote on that particular item Monday night. Public Works update. We got 3 public work updates here. Start off with number 1 there on the GFA loan modification, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, we've got several things under Public Works for consideration of Monday's night's board meeting. The first one is GFA has elected to defer all principal and interest payments on our loans, except for one. One is still under construction, so we only have capitalized interest on that one, and that will be deferred. The deferred period is July 1st through January 2021. Because of this deferral period, each one of our loans have to have a loan modification, and so I've included copies of the resolutions that will need to be approved for each of our loans, so that we can modify our loans to take advantage of this deferral period. We have 4 different loans with GFA, each of those at varying amounts, and go through different, one is still in construction, and the other 3 run from 2023, 2032, and 2034. So we'll have a 6-month period with no principal and interest. Well, let me back up. One of our notes, I've never seen it before, has a negative interest rate, but at least the principal will be held out on it, and one has a 0 interest rate, but the principal will be held out on it. So that would be for Monday evening, if anybody has any questions.
Any questions, John?
The next item under Public Works is the portable generator bid. As you know, we've already approved 1 generator, and that was a stationary generator at our tank. This will be part of our GFA project funded by our GFA loan for a portable generator. We received 4 bids back on June 4th, ranging from $106,000 to $139,000. It is our recommendation that we go with the lowest bidder submitted by J&T Service Center, Inc., in the amount of $106,558. This portable generator will be used throughout our water system, so if anything goes down, we can take it to that area for anything that doesn't have a stationary generator. Anybody have any questions about that bid? And moving on now to the next one, we received bids on June 26th for the installation of a pump installation on one of the wells that we're bringing online. We only had 1 bidder, Fortson Well Drilling and Environmental Services, in the amount of $50,406.75. This amount will be funded with our GFA loan as well, and it's my recommendation that we move forward with this and get another well online, which has previously already been approved. So you guys, if you have any questions before Monday, please let me know.
Any questions, guys?
That's it for Public Works.
Okay. Now we'll move to the next planning and zoning. And we got a gentleman that's doing a great job at my side on the planning and zoning. I'm gonna ask Mr. Scott if he'll kick us off on what you got planning and zoning.
I appreciate it. I'm gonna come up here where I can spread out a little bit and discuss with you. So I think the first, I didn't have a copy of the agenda in front of me, but I know the vegetative buffer ordinance is on the agenda, and I'd like to address that first. In the email that I sent y'all had a copy of the drafted ordinance and the drafted and the proposed and recommended approved planning list. After speaking with Bubba recommended that we make that a zoning text amendment, since it does have to do with land use, it does have to do with conditions that we attach to the zoning of, rezonings, conditional use permits, etc. To do that, we would require the 2 public hearings be held. It's already been through the Planning Commission. Planning Commission helped develop it and write it. And they've already voted unanimously to adopt it. So it would, in turn, we would have to advertise properly. It could be a public hearing at the planning and zoning meeting, and then it would come before y'all in a public hearing form, and then we would amend the current zoning regulations. If that's the route y'all want to go, that's Bubba's recommendation as well as mine. However, we can still adopt it as an ordinance if that's the way y'all want to do. So it'll be y'all's call on the route that we take for this vegetative buffer ordinance and or zoning text amendment. So I didn't hear back on which way y'all wanted to proceed on that. So I guess I'm asking how y'all want to proceed with that. Do y'all want to go with Bubba's recommendation, or do you want to try to adopt it as a standalone ordinance that we can refer to?
What is your recommendation?
After speaking with Bubba, I would agree with Bubba. I would go with Bubba's recommendation to making it a zoning text amendment. It's not going to be really much any more difficult. It'll just be 2 more months down the line before we can adopt it, basically. So my recommendation is to make it a zoning text amendment. And I don't know if y'all have any questions on that, the language or the approved planning list.
Any questions for Scott on that?
So I'll tell you that we're going to proceed with it being a zoning text amendment.
Yes.
Okay.
Not in my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have a problem.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. All right. So I'll take care of that on my end, and it'll be before y'all again in a couple of months. So the next item is going to be the building inspections and code enforcement program that we're looking to adopt in Franklin County. The first thing that I want to point y'all's attention to before we get started, page 29, I gave y'all all an updated version of that spreadsheet and that table. What the addition was, and after emails from Dr. Mackinson, he made a good point. It wasn't as clear as it should have been. But for what is called a system change, I added that to something that needs to be permitted and inspected. I want to be clear that the inspection of the system change would just be for that particular system, whether that's HVAC, gas, or electric. So if you're wanting to go from electric appliances to gas appliances, the installation of that system would be permitted and inspected. Say you're going from window units as your air conditioning system and you're wanting to go to a central heating and air, the installation of the HVAC system, central heating and air, would be permitted and inspected. And along with electric, if you're going up, say you've got a 100 amp system, 100 amp breaker currently in the house, and for some reason you need to up that to a 150, 200 amp system, that system change would be inspected.
So it's not one system to a different type. It can be even in-kind systems if there's an upgrade. That kind of like what you're saying.
So you,
adding more power.
Yeah,
via
well,
another electrical box.
if you're doing something that's going to send you over So if you're remodeling your house and you're not expanding the footprint of the house, we're not gonna require a permit for that work to be inspected. However, if during the remodeling process, you add
Power.
another kitchen and add another stove that requires another 50-amp breaker, and that puts you over your current capacity of your current system, and you have to, add on to your current, your current system, then just that upgrade will be inspected, to ensure that, that's a public safety factor, issue there. And that's really what's driving everything in this program, is from a public safety, perspective. So I want to be clear that that would be a change to this.
I do have one question
Yes.
on that specifically, because
Okay.
those are smaller, it's not necessarily the same as a huge renovation or a huge addition. This is something that a lot of times costs less than $5,000.
Right.
Do we have any idea what the permitting fee
Yeah,
is
so-
for something that was smaller like that?
So on page 28, I don't know if you-
Yeah,
okay,
I can
yeah,
look.
I got the proposed fee schedule.
Because it sounds like this was an addition that they just kind of,
Well, yeah,
did you say they just added this to the mix? Or no?
what I gave you, the system change is an addition, but on the fee table, it's got, trade permits, and the trade permits are based on the valuation of the system. So it'd be a minimum of $100 fee, a permit fee, and that would be up to, let's see, how is it? Up to, I think it's $50,000. So of the work being done. So if that system, so if to convert from a window unit as your air conditioning system, and to convert to central heat and air is under that $50,000 cap, then it's going to be $100 permit fee.
That's-
And then once you get above the valuation of just the work, it doesn't, not valuation of the home afterwards, not valuation of any of that, just what it will cost to do that particular job. And once you get over that $50,000 mark, it's $100 plus $15 or plus $5 for each additional $1,000 worth of valuation.
That way it's making it relatively affordable for homeowners versus.
Right,
commercial
exactly,
entities.
and the reason it goes up, as the value goes up, is the scope of inspection that would have to be done. It's covering the cost of the work to inspect it, is what it's designed for. And this is, by the way, this is Hal Chipwood, and Billy Vandiver, sorry. They are, from Bureau Veritas, and they're with the company that we're looking to use for our, inspectors if we adopt this program. So by all means,
Thank you, gentlemen, for hearing us tonight. Based on the fee schedule that Scott's worked on, I just want to make a clarification on that. If you'll look at this middle portion here, it says commercial inspection permit fees. So if it's a residential upgrade, whether it's HVAC, electrical, that would just be a minimum permit fee of $100 for that trade permit. We wouldn't go beyond that. But if it was a commercial entity, that's where we would look into the higher value of the permit.
yeah, most of the time your residential stuff's not gonna reach over that 50,000 unless you're doing a, expansion and whatnot, and then you have to pull individual permits for that, expanded footprint.
Comment, the safety element of it, I think, is spot on.
Right.
Especially when you're talking about dealing with electrical or gas or anything like that. Because I deal in insurance, I had a potential home buyer that just did like a kind of a walkthrough of a house, and the previous owner, the one selling it, did not know anything about electrical, and the breaker box was apparently hot, and so anyway, that being said, yeah.
Right.
$100 is a small price to pay.
Versus a brand new house.
Or a brand new person.
Or a brand new person, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are we gonna do town hall meetings to get the public knowing about this?
So.
Cause it's been over a year Since we've talked about it.
Yeah,
And the general public needs to know about it.
we did town hall meetings when it was first presented, and there was about 2 or 3 people that showed up to those town hall meetings. We've been discussing it, and we've been, it's been known that it's been something that we're looking at adopting for a while now. I have no problem doing, some sort of, press release, some sort of,
We need to do something. Don't just hang it out there, some poor old joker building a house somewhere and gets fined and didn't know nothing about it.
well, fine, yeah, and they're fines are not the,
It may not be what we're going to, but that's what'll happen.
Could we add this to one or both of the 2 public hearings we'll need to have on the vegetative buffer? That way we could discuss them both. That would give people time to look. As I agree, it's been over a year. A lot of people, this is off the radar, and I know we didn't have a lot of turnout at those hearings, but
Right.
it would just allow people one more opportunity to talk about, to hear about it.
so we
Is
want.
that something we could do?
Yeah, I mean, we can add it to a public hearing agenda, the next, so we've already advertised for the upcoming one in June, and we've already,
Or July?
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, the one in July. Yes, we've already advertised for the one in July, and, we have not advertised for the one in August. So we could advertise for the August Planning Commission, public hearing, and do it that way, and then proceed.
If
it's
we,
not-
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, it's, to me, we've been talking about it for a while.
We have. There are some changes. I just wonder if we did that, could we have the hearing on a different day than we're going to approve it? I don't like the idea if we just have a hearing and then 30 minutes later, we vote on it.
Right,
So like do it on a
this-
different day.
Yeah, and, this being an ordinance that we're adopting, there's got to be 2 public readings. So we could say this is a work session, doesn't count as the first reading. The first reading could be at Monday night's commissioners meeting, and then we advertise between that point and the second reading when the second reading is going to be, and we have some sort of public hearing in between that time frame. So
Yeah.
if we use July 6th, is that?
Yeah,
if
and we
use
can
the-
double up on some public hearings when we have our millage rate public hearings.
Okay,
And
so
then
we could do
we'll
more than
group
one
our
topic.
one. So we could double up on
Would
both
that-
those
Yeah.
meetings.
Would that be?
And still hit the timetable.
Yeah, and that's the thing, I'd have to look at, the advertising dates and deadlines to make it an actual public hearing. It being a ordinance adoption, it doesn't legally have to be a public hearing, but we can
Yeah.
discuss it I guess it doesn't have to be advertised as a public hearing, it being an ordinance adoption, but we can discuss it at the public hearing if that's the route we want to go. And then at that, we can, announce when the first and or second reading of this would be. And I've got all of this digital, and I've got it formatted to where if anybody wants a copy of it, I can print it off or email it.
Yeah, could you email electronic copy
And
with the
like-
update?
Is public hearings what we want to go for, or is training what we're going for?
Well, I
mean,
thought-
Is the public going to change your mind on this, which, and they should have
They,
input, but I don't even know that all of y'all came to the town halls when we had them. last
If we could reach out to like some of the local contractors, because
Well-
they'd have more value. I mean, they may think of things that we don't. to
Yeah.
ask.
I've already reserved the community center in Carnesville, and I've already got a date with
Okay.
Rio Veritas set up and scheduled for July. I think it's the 26th, the last Thursday in July. I can't remember the day off the top of my head. I think it's 26th. Anyway, the last Thursday in July. And I've been compiling myself through word of mouth and spreading the word to the contractors and local tradesmen. And once we decide to move forward with this, I was going to push out to all the contractors and tradesmen and say, hey, this is the date and time, and at that point in time, Hal and his team will be there, I will be there, we'll discuss the ordinance. They've already got a presentation prepared to train everybody, kind of go over what the requirements are gonna be. You know, they can go over how they inspect, what the inspections process looks like, what they're looking for when they come to a job site. You know, I guess it's kind of like checklist, like here's what the inspection process looks like, here's what we are looking for. And if anybody at that time is wanting to start a project that's gonna need a permit, they can go ahead and walk them through the new permitting process at that time. And they've already said that they are, you know, give them the green light and they'll go as far as training and getting the building community involved in this.
Yeah.
'Cause that's really the ones that are gonna probably have to push back on it. I know most, you know, most citizens are gonna wanna make sure if they're spending $300,000 on a house, that it's built right. I don't see the citizens having that much problem with it. It's gonna be, the building community that's gonna have the heartburn. And I've already taken steps, to try to ensure that our building community in Franklin County is gonna be on the same page. I want this, my goal is for this transition to be as seamless as possible. I want it to be as painless as possible for the building community and the tradesmen. And anybody that's already pulled a permit at this point in time, you know, that they're an old system. It would, you know, it only apply to those after we adopt this program, if we adopt it. And it would give time, I believe it would give us plenty of time to put it in the newspaper, put it on the county website, advertise, all that kind of stuff.
But we could combine it with some of those other like the hearing at least that we have.
Yeah, and
One or
I've
two
got, you know,
hearings.
as reference, I've got sitting on my desk right now, I've got 5, and I got more than 5, but just for new houses being constructed, I've got 5 building permits sitting on my desk, and every single one of them, and that was from Friday, that's Friday, Monday, and today. Last 3 days, I've had 5 new residents apply for, and every single one of them have asked when they came in, what's the inspections, you know, process like? What do we have to do to get these buildings inspected? That kind of thing. And I'd say 95% of people that come in for a building permit ask, what's the inspections process? And we'll say there is none. We zero. So.
In my experiences over the years, because we've been working on this for a while, the quality and licensed builders and tradesmen that I've talked to have not had a single issue with this, because they're going to continue doing things the right way.
And most of them welcome it. Most of them want it.
Well, what it's going to do, it's not going to affect the good people doing things the right way.
Right, exactly.
It's going to affect people from Atlanta and Greenville and outsiders and someone that doesn't really need to be messing with electrical wiring, from building poor quality homes and commercial entity buildings that are going to affect people
right
long term. So we can push this down the road, which I don't think y'all want to do, but we can make a decision very soon to start helping people in our county in a good way. There are a lot of homes that are coming. Even in spite of, Eddie, you were saying it earlier, people are still building, you know, it's something to be excited about. A lot of these people spend a lot of hard work and time and effort to save so that they can build their home, their dream home. And we owe it to them that it's done the right way. We're one of the few communities, I think there's less than 7 now, counties in Georgia that doesn't have this type of inspection. To me, that's wrong, you know? And the amount of effort that's been put in by you, planning board, the information that's been passed out over the past few years, maybe we have another information session like you're talking about, Dr. Mackinson, but I don't want to push this out 2 or 3 or 4 more meetings for the sake of what's to be gained.
We
give the information.
Yeah.
You know, we can each talk to people, we can talk to the press and give them additional information if they need it. It's right here. I'll give you this to you, Shane, when we're all said and done. But, you know, that being said, I mean,
Yeah,
I think it's okay for us to go ahead and move along and
Yeah,
make a
we
decision.
just, you know, we were all set to go last year, and then it sort of dropped off the radar. And I want to make sure we do everything we can to keep people informed about what we're doing. I'm for a limited inspections program, but I want to make sure I know what we're getting, and this is not something that's going to grow in scope and become an overbearing thing that would not be good for the county. So just the more information, the better. And I think since we've restarted, not really restarted the process, but began the pathway again toward adoption, it's been so long, we need to make sure we keep everybody fully informed about what we're doing. The worst, well, not the worst thing, but the thing, one of my concerns, it is going to be a lot more expensive, and I want people to know that too. That's one concern, and I know it's set up to be budget neutral. It's just going to be a big difference for people
Right, and.
because
you
of
know,
the number and the cost of the permits.
And it's, you know,
Can I add some perspective to that real quick? I apologize.
No, you're-
I know you're thinking something. A lot of these lenders that are establishing loans for new home construction, which is primarily the purpose of this, they're requiring home construction warranty loans or home construction warranties, just so that they can get this started, so that they can even give a loan to someone who's wanting to build, because our
Yeah.
county doesn't have this inspection program. And those warranty, essentially construction warranties, cost on a low side $550, on a high side over $1,000. A lot of people are already paying if they can get it, and a lot of the lenders that want to loan money so that people can build in Franklin County,
Yeah.
the type of loans that they can actually get for these people don't even allow that. So they're going to other counties to build, because depending on the type of loan, some of them won't even let you go that construction warranty route to get the loan approved. So there is an additional cost, but a lot of that is already being paid, and they're not even getting anything for it. So they're paying this $500 to $1,000 just so they can get approved for a loan, and they could still get stuck with a bad home that doesn't meet the guideline.
And on that, I've looked personally, I'm a veteran, so I qualify for a VA loan, and I've looked at a new construction VA loan. VA would require me to hire myself out of pocket a certified building inspector to inspect the work along the way anyways. So, you know, is that 500, you know, at what point are we evaluating, you know, at what point in somebody's life?
How often do you think now people who are building get their own inspectors? Is that a pretty common thing, or do we have a way to track that?
I have no way to track that. I wouldn't even want to begin to estimate that. And on that, it was brought up during the planning commission when we were talking about this new construction, such as poultry houses. So, you know, the way it's written, that's a ag use, and there'll be no inspection. A lot of people are sinking millions of dollars into new poultry farms, and it was asked, well, if we as the person who wants to build this $1.6 million farm, if we want this structure inspected, can we? If we adopt this and go with Bureau Veritas, if that person wants that inspected, it's not going to be required. I want to make that clear. It's not going to be required. But if that individual wants their poultry house inspected, we can provide that service to them as well. So, you know, even the ones that aren't required, we would still have the resources and the team and the knowledge to do it if somebody wanted it. And coming from a public safety point of view and what's best for the citizens, I would hate to know that my name is the one that's on all these building permits that are issued. I would hate to know that I signed off on a building permit for a shoddy work job being done, and that causes harm or death to somebody because it was done improperly. That's kind of where I'm coming from it for this program.
And for those that know that something was done incorrectly, they're having to spend money to fix dangerous situation. I've had to spend thousands of dollars on my home to fix gaps.
Yeah.
And not just gaps, literal gaps, but gaps in the way that it should have been built, the way the studs should have been secured. I mean, things like that
Right.
that are hidden a lot of times behind drywall.
And there's also daily issues that arise that could be prevented. So right now, the only thing we do is check setbacks. We go out there, they have it staked out, and they say, yep, this is what we're building. We say, yep, that meets our setbacks, and then they go to building. There's multiple situations that arose where that building, once it was constructed, was not constructed at the original place that it was said it was going to be constructed. And it's encroaching on other people's property. It's causing, issues for the neighbors. It's causing issues from it's too close to the right of way, all that kind of stuff. And had we been expecting the work along the way, we would have caught it from the get-go. Once that building is there, it's there. And if we permitted it and signed off on it, but never verify anything, there's no way for us to go, recoup damages or stop it or whatever needs to be done.
We dealt with that a couple years ago.
Right. Right.
I know you mentioned that, we've taken it out to more people that have more experience. You have a really experienced person right here on this board that I think has looked through everything to make sure. So one of the reasons it fell off last time is because we wanted to do all this education and we've dragged it out. I think it's been a long time coming. I do think it's best for the safety. Scott has dedicated a lot of time to ensure that this got off the ground and going, and I'd like to see it.
Will you send the electronic?
I actually do.
Okay,
That's
thank
no
you.
problem. So my recommendation and my proposal is that we count tonight as the first reading of this ordinance and this program, and then I recommend y'all would set the date for the second reading, and then I can adjust from there. But what I want to adopt is the ordinance as drafted. This the table that that tells which structure would require inspections, which ones wouldn't, and the fee table. What I would ask is that the policy and procedures not be adopted as a resolution. So the building permit fee schedule and the required inspections by structure would be adopted by resolution attached to the ordinance. I would not want the policies and procedures necessarily adopted as a resolution. I think we've got a great team that's going to help us get this program up and running. We've got a lot of things in place to make it a smooth and seamless transition and as painless as possible. I am not arrogant enough to think that I have created a perfect plan, so I do think that I will need some flexibility to adjust this as we get things going to where we can make it as painless as possible. If there's more work on our end required to make it easier on the citizens and on the contractors, then that's fine with me. But I'll need that flexibility and the actual procedures and the policies to get it going. I think the fee table and the ordinance and what we have written, what would require an inspection and what would not, that limits my reach, and that protects the citizens from, if I leave and somebody replaces me, from that individual being able to overreach what their scope is supposed to be.
I think I said it in one of the last meetings we had a year ago or whatever. My intention for this would be that we go by what the state building code is and what they recommend. I don't want to see us as a county start overreaching and trying to add more on top of this, because you will quickly start running that over in a heartbeat.
Right.
I think we just strictly need to focus on what the state has in their building inspection codes, and we go with it. as a county, we don't add on top of it and add on top of it.
Correct, I agree 100%, and in the ordinance, it states at so if you go to first page, section 1.2, the technical codes in the ordinance that we're adopting is the state minimum codes. And there's been nothing added to those codes at all in Franklin County. And 1.2.3 states that it's the intent of Franklin County government to adopt any updated versions of the Georgia minimum codes. But that's it, you know.
There's just a lot of counties that
Right.
I feel like overreach in what they start requiring.
Right, and if we, which I have no intention of doing, but if down the road we wanted to add to it, we would have to, you know, amend this ordinance and adopt it. So what's in this ordinance is the bare minimum required by the state, which state law already requires us to follow the state minimum code.
It's on the first page of the DCA handbook.
Exactly. I mean, we're not, this is not adding anything to what is already required by law. We're just actually, you know, if the speed limit's 55 and nobody enforces the speed limit, we're actually now just starting to enforce the speed limit, so to speak.
Yeah, it states on that first page that every city and county government to have a building inspection program.
Right. Right, and that's we're just finally catching up with the minimum state law that's already in place. And now I don't know if y'all have any questions for Hal and his guys. They came along to answer any questions y'all might have for them from the technical side. They're a lot more versed in the language of the code and all that. But again, I would say it's my recommendation to count tonight as the first reading of this ordinance. I'll let the board decide when the second reading would be, and from there, I can adjust the training session for our local contractors and tradesmen.
The second reading be at the next, which is on
So-
the 7th.
So and I spoke with Bubba. Bubba said there's no, it doesn't matter. We can do the second reading on the July, I think it's July 6th. Commission meeting Monday.
I'd like to go that route.
That's okay with me there.
Sounds good.
I've talked with Hal and his team. They're ready to implement starting August 1. They said they can start as early as August 1, which would, if we count the second reading at the next board meeting, then that would put us perfectly on time to start August 1st. We have that July 26th training time frame and give us time to advertise and publicize appropriately.
Sounds
Thank you,
good.
Scott.
Appreciate it.
All right. All right, set that up. Let's go with that.
Okay, that's all I've got. If y'all got any more questions. So are we going with tonight being the first reading or?
Yes,
Okay.
cool, that's correct.
And does that require a vote?
I guess that would probably require.
Vote.
I think we're just introducing it as the proposed ordinance and introducing it into the record as the first reading of the proposed ordinance.
Right.
I think that's how we did it the first time we read the first one, so we're actually introducing it for the first time the second time. Don't put that on radio.
She's got it on there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Scott,
Appreciate it.
appreciate it. Let's move to the manager's report, Ms. Thomas.
And I'll try to keep it short tonight. I did want to give you an update. Yesterday, we got a press release from the state of Georgia discussing Title V of the CARES Act, which provides for financial resources for state and local governments. I'm still waiting for additional details to come out, but Franklin County, as well as all of our cities, are allocated a portion of that funding. Of phase one, they can do a 30% advance for certain expenditures. Again, we're waiting on that portal to come open, and then I'm waiting for additional details for our expenditures. Throughout this whole COVID period, we have been gathering our expenditures and trying to put in for grants where we could. I applied for an elections grant with the help of Gina, so we can get some of that funding back, and we'll try to utilize this funding as best as possible. While I give you these numbers, this is not to say that we get all of this money. This is just what is allocated to us. But based on our population, phase one allocation is $873,212 with a 30% advance immediately available at $261,964. Obviously, we didn't spend nearly that much on COVID, but we may look at some additional preventative measures that we can implement. We try to do it. We always try to be fiscally responsible. You go to our office, and most of our furniture is recycled furniture from the University of Georgia. We're very appreciative of them, because when they decide to get new stuff, we get their old stuff. So we have done with our own staff, in a lot of cases, at the Board of Commissioners office, reworked that building. Scott brought in his tool bag. I brought in my tool bag too, but I don't think I get to count as much work as the guys got to do. So we try to make it work. We did not spend nearly that amount of money, but we will try to get back as much as possible. Second thing I'd like to discuss is, as we go into this next fiscal year and we look at every way to be fiscally responsible, we always look at our rate structures. There's one thing that we're going to implement effective in August, assuming that our equipment comes in. We will no longer accept cash at the convenience center there at the old landfill. We will move to a credit and debit card and checks only. This helps minimize the risk of exposure for both the citizen and for us in exchanging cash. And it's also a better cash management policy. So we're trying to get that implemented and up by August 1st. To help with that, we've looked at, if COVID did anything in household, it taught people how to clean out, because our revenue at the convenience center skyrocketed during those months. But we had a lot of stuff be brought in. So we're still looking at the same rate structure, 5 tags for $5, but we would like to move up on the amount of truck that we charge truckloads for coming in. Chairman Bridges, I did tell you something incorrect. A single axle is currently at 35, a double axle is at 45. So there is a size difference, but very minimal. And then for non-residents, that truck size moves $100 for single axle and $120 to double. Currently, I have a proposed increase to go up to 45 and 55 for residents and 125 to 150. I may tweak that a little bit as I talk to Public Works and make sure that, this does suffice, because we haul this off to a private landfill and we pay. We do run this as a convenience center. The next thing I'd like to discuss on rates is occupational tax. We talked about this last year, but let me follow through with what happened. We currently charge a $35 tax, which includes a $10 administration fee that's built into it. I recommend that we move this to $50. We said this last year, and when I got ready to send out the bill with a new amount, I went back and I always double check, read our ordinances, and it's embedded in the ordinance that we have at least one public hearing prior to increasing the taxation. So I recommend that we hold a public hearing in September before our November billing for occupational tax. This will help us fund some part-time hours. We currently have a staff member who has been working part-time, but she has been fully dedicated to this. She's reworked all of our forms. She has tracked down businesses with personal phone calls, and we've not been able to do that. And I think this will help fund and pay for itself. The last rate structure I'd like to discuss and go up on is early in the 2000s, the county implemented a policy to assist citizens with animal burials, and that makes sense. We're an agricultural community. The initial fee was set at $50. Since that time, for 20 years, it has remained at $50. So when they call us for a burial, we stop what we're doing, we load up, we go bury the animal for $50. Yes, it is a service that we provide, but everything has gone up in 20 years, and so I recommend that we increase that amount to $200, which I still believe is less than other comparable vendors that are providing the service, but it does help us recoup some of the cost associated with that service.
This is on their own property?
On their own property. Okay. Yeah. And sometimes it can be lengthy, and given the situation and depending on the animal, it does make for some on-call, late evenings on The last thing I'd like to, and I'm gonna embarrass him only because he's here. We have our 2 interns in our office, and I promised this wasn't on until you walked in. David Shoemaker is actually one of our interns. The other one is Stephanie Allen. They are making tremendous progress. They have buried themselves. Matter of fact, I don't know how they do it, but they have buried themselves in all the resolutions, ordinances, and minute books, going everything from the 2000s forward to continue work on our recodification process. They've managed to scan everything in, cross-reference, and now they're moving into a review of the draft, and then we'll be uploading into it. So thank you, David, for all of your work. We are thankful that they are at that. And we just remind you, we're funding this through a grant as far as their salaries. And I think they're learning, I hope that they're learning a lot. They're teaching me a lot in the process. And it's been a great team. And Mr. Chairman, that is it for my manager's report today, unless you guys have any questions for me.
I have a question. I had a phone call, a guy was looking at some property. And there's an old barn and there's a chicken house. The barn is full of used tires and the chicken house is half full of used tires. Is there any kind of a program in the state that would help do something with them? I told him I'd have to ask.
And I'll have to research, and I think there was some funding set aside, but this is prior to my time in government, but something happened, maybe the state took the money. I'll have to look and see what kind of programs are available.
I told him I would check with you. I said, I can't think of anything. But I can't imagine a chicken house having that many tires in it either.
That's not good, that's not good. And he's already purchased that?
No, he hasn't purchased it yet.
I believe I'd stay
The
away
tires is holding him off.
Absolutely. Excuse me. Well, Ms. Thomas, that was a good report. And gentlemen, if y'all get a chance, just drop into the county office. It's amazing. It's like a beehive working in our county office. I'm so impressed, everybody's doing things, and I think we can see the positive results. All right, we're going down to the adjournment here. We have a motion, we adjourn?
I move.
We got a couple of motions and a second, so we stand adjourned. Thank you.